So here's the walkthrough for Edexcel Foundation. It's June 2022. It's paper 3, so calculators at the ready. So on the first page, don't overcomplicate. Keep things nice and simple, but don't take too lightly. Write 35% as a fraction. Don't forget percentage means out of 100. It doesn't ask to simplify, so why waste time? When you're working out fractions of amounts, you divide by the bottom. You usually times by the top. Obviously, this is the non-calc way of doing things. You could just stick in and replace of with times. Who cares? As long as you get the answer 7. Write down 2 factors of 12. When listing factors, I do prefer to pair them up so you don't miss any out. If you do, you miss 2 out. Never mind. Any of those will suffice. Number 4, simplify. Whenever you simplify an algebra, always deal with your numbers first. 3 times 2 is 6. And stick the M on the end. Number 5, on your calculator, type it all in. It's going to give you the answer of 1.3. I've cheated for number 6 because my technology skills are very poor. But as you can see, any sort of parallelogram, because quadrilaterals with no lines of symmetry, all right, you're limited really to parallelograms and trapeziums, but rotational symmetry order 2, not happening on a trapezium, so got to be a parallelogram for me. Number 7, in total. So as soon as you see the word total, you start adding lists up. So add up your apples, 253. Oranges, 224. And your job is to take them away. Definitely one that's not worth overcomplicating. Looks a bit wordy, not as bad as it seems. Number 8. Write down the next 2 terms, so you could make a note that it's going up in 5s, and it's going to be 28 and 33. I'll not write them all down, but the most obvious alternative answers, different answers for this one. Jim says that 50 is a term, and Jim is wrong. You could carry on the sequence. You'll soon get to 48, and you'll soon get to 53. Or you could explain that all the numbers in the sequence finish in 3 and 8, and 0 doesn't. Entirely your choice. I think I prefer the 3 and 8 version. Saves on the effort. Number 9, write down number of faces. So flat surfaces for faces. Sometimes, if you're not sure, I go do them in pairs, front and back. There's no top and bottom here, but there is left and right. And the base, giving us 5 faces. Write down number of edges. Again, if you're not great, I'm not sometimes, and trace them out. 3 at the front, 3 at the back, and the 3 joining each vertex gives us a total of 9. No real need to go down the faces, edges, vertices, rules route. Stick to counting for that one. Number 10. On the probability scale, mark probability of scoring or getting or picking a number 7. There isn't a 7 in the list. It's impossible. So that goes on 0. Greater than 5 doesn't include 5. So greater than 5 is, as you can see, half of the numbers. On goes the cross, missed, at half. Probability of an even number, there's 2, 3, 4, 5 even numbers. 5 out of 8. Number 11. First proper wordy question. The previous one with the table I don't count. Number 11. So Sunita wants to make 35 pictures. So as soon as you see 35 picture frames, 4 nails each frame, get on your calculator or even mental arithmetic. 140 nails. She has 3 boxes, 48 each box again. Then multiplied. Has Sunita got enough nails? All right, we can now answer. If you want to be perfect, extra bit of being watertight, there we go. Number 12, give your answer in its simplest form, don't forget. You can either do it mentally, looking off zeros, dividing by 2, and all that. But on a calculator paper, you could just type that in, hit the equals sign, and let the calculator do the rest. It's question 13, slightly cheated already, but not massively. So, for part A, measure these distances. I think I'm slightly off because my print-off's slightly smaller than the original, but you're always allowed leeway, so let's go with it. Measuring each of those, they're the measurements in centimetres I get. So when you do 6.8, take away these 2, I get 2 centimetres. Referring to the scale, 2 lots of 150 metres gives us 300 metres. And now, part B, I'll not scroll down, you know what's coming, but the key thing is, it says A from C. So I've already put that line, and if you haven't drawn it in already, it does help. A from C means you're stood at C, facing north, and you have to turn clockwise. So the angle you are trying to give as your answer is this one. So hopefully you know already, it's an angle well above 180. So the best way to do that, measure the anti-clockwise angle, which I get to be 72, and take that away from 360. So I'm getting 288. And as always on these mark schemes, they allow you plus or minus 2 for any angles. Number 14. So find the median. So I'm not going to cross them out because I might want to see them, in fact, for the range. So, but do the old beginning, end, and so on. And we get the situation where we're halfway between 2 numbers in the middle, but they're the same numbers anyway. So no need to even add them together and halve them. Range is biggest, take away smallest. So don't forget to subtract. For the shoe sizes, so compare the distribution. Now they've given you loads of space, but 2 short, sweet sentences will suffice. Compare the distributions. Well, they've given you 2 different bits of information, so make a statement about each. So compare the distributions. You've already worked out the median for the boys. You've got the median for the girls. So a sentence that says, on average, the boys' shoe size is greater than the girls' shoe size. And in the next sentence, the boys' range is greater than the girls' range. Any words you want that explain those are going to pick up the marks. Number 15, work out. Obviously, you've got a calculator, but we are hoping that people know to put brackets round. Or on some calculators, you can just type it as a top, bottom, numerator, denominator of your fraction, and off you go. You've got to admit, when you look at it, you are expecting a horrible decimal, only if you've done it wrong, because it is just a 5. Number 16, cheated in advance. So don't forget, when you're choosing, because on screen is only one correct answer, isosceles just means it's got one line of symmetry. And don't forget, the area of a triangle is a half base times height. So as long as the base and the height multiply to make 24, it's a correct triangle. So I've gone for a base of 6, a height of 4, and so mine is a half of 6 times 4, which is the 12. You could have a long, thin, tall one, or a wider one than mine, entirely up to you. Number 17, for some algebra. Expand means multiply out, so everything inside the bracket needs multiplying by 3. So we get a 12, minus 2 becomes minus 6. Next, the divide by 4 is something it crops up now and again, but anything that throws you off, get rid of it. And how do you get rid of things in fractions? By doing the opposite. So multiply both sides by 4. And then again do opposites, divide both sides by 3. Calculator if you need to. Factorise opposite of part A, put the brackets back in, and take out common factors. The only thing these two terms have in common, they're in the 2 times table. So 2 times what gives me 4p, 2 times what gives me 3. And there we go. Into number 18, bit of rounding. So corrected 2 significant figures. So the second most important digit is the 5. So we look at the 3 afterwards. 3 means leave it alone. So the 2 and the 5 don't change. So 2,500. 1 significant figure, the most important digit, we don't include the zeros at the start of a number. 8 is the most important number. A 7 follows it. So the 8 needs to round up to 9. Number 19. Not the wordiest of wordy. Just get one thing at a time. So 3/8 of. On your calculator, of means times. So we have 150 red. 82 are yellow. Now it doesn't ask for how many are green, but you do need that. So 400, take away the 150 red, take away the 82 yellow, leaves us with 168 green counters, but it asks for percentage. So 168 out of 400 counters, that gives us the fraction which are green. You multiply it by 100 on your calculator to write it as a percentage, which in this case is 42. Number 20. Not the friendliest looking of angles, but one thing at a time. I'm not going to waste your time by writing out each reason. I'll simply state them as I go along. So my advice with complicated or even simple angles, just write on things which you can work out straight away. So as soon as you see it, you've got the old X angles, but that's not the correct reason. Angle QPR is 56 because opposite angles are equal. Now if we look down here with these parallel lines, we've got alternate angles. So that is 56 as well. So if you can see your letter Z as I'm tracing it out, alternate angles are equal. So this angle is 56. Next, let's focus in on just the isosceles triangle. If we have 56 at the top, these two angles are both the same and make this add up to 180. So each of these angles is 62. because 62 plus 56 gives us 180. Now let's have a read of the question. Work out CQR. C to Q to R. That includes the 56. That includes the 62. And that is the 118 as required. Number 21. Lowest common multiple. Obviously, you could sit there and with your calculator write out your 24 times table. Feel free. I'm going for 6 fours. I prefer to do this method, particularly when you're revising for past papers, because you don't know what numbers to prepare for. They could be friendly numbers. I'd say these two are quite friendly. They could be much worse, and the answer could be in the thousands. You don't want to sit there writing that out. 8 sevens are 56, and to speed things up, I'll do a three-way split. 2 times 2 times 2. So you could do a Venn diagram. It's entirely up to you, but I'll simply go, there are 3 2's in common, so that means the HCF is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And we take the 8 and multiply it by the leftovers to give us 168. And I'd say that method is less efficient than writing out the multiples, but like I say, I think you should revise that technique because it prepares you for all possibilities in your exam. Number 22, it's Pythagoras. As soon as you see Pythagoras, you need to start squaring things. Okay, so we've got the longest side, so we can say that once you've squared them, that this is a subtract question. 56.25, and as we know from Pythagoras, the final stage is to square root. 7.5 could have been a much more difficult, tricky decimal, but turns out quite nice. Next, question 23, sorry. Be careful on A. Okay, when you substitute, particularly with negative numbers, replace substitutions with brackets. And if you want to put the whole lot into your calculator, feel free, but I'll just explain why. The answer is 25, because when you square this, you get positive 9. Again, you could now go to your calculator, but either way, it should be 36 minus 11 to give you 25. When you're rearranging the subject, just treat it like solving. Try and get an answer of P equals. So do opposites is what you do in solving. Same thing here. So take away 4 to get rid of the add 4 from both sides. And finally get rid of the 3 by dividing both sides by 3. Not everyone's favourite, I know, but well worth practicing. Number 24. Yeah, very wordy. Not everyone's cup of tea, but like all wordies, one stage at a time. One line at a time. Top line tells me nothing, apart from the fact I probably should start organising information. Rick has some counters. That's normally a cue to use algebra. Selma has twice as many. Tony has 6 counters less. Take it away. In total. Total means add this list up. We've got 5 X's, take away 6, totaling to 54. So it begins as a set up and solve question. Add 6 to both sides. and divide both sides by 5, but you haven't finished. X being 12 means Rick's got 12, Selma's got 24, and if we take away 6, Tony's got 18. Let's now read this final sentence. Rick to Tony is 12 to 18. It wants us to write this ratio so that there is a 1 on the left-hand side for Rick. The only way we can do that is if we divided both sides by 12. So we divide 18 by 12. I'm never a fan of decimals being involved in ratio, but there we go. That's what it wants. So that's what I've got to do. 1.5 for the right answer. Number 25. Good old wordy, but again, organise, separate, get your data together. Let's look at chic decor first. 3 rolls. She wants 15 rolls. That's 5 times the 36. So if she goes to CD, it'll cost her £180. If she goes to style papers, it's not quite telling us the upfront cost. So let's do that to begin with. £70 to take 12% off. You're going to have 88% left, which you could write as 0.88 or stick to 88%, meaning 88 out of 100, and that is £61.60. But that's for a pack of 5. She's wanting 15. So we times by 3. It would cost £184.80 from style papers. So it says, should Joe buy from? So as we can see, chic decor is the cheapest. Okay, on we go to the graph question. But not your draw graph, it's your criticise graph. Now, I'll not scroll all the way down, I'll simply explain them. So whenever you're asked to look for some errors on things, always check the axes to begin with. Horizontally, the axis looks fine, no numbers missing, but on the frequency axis, so a reason like frequency is missing 40 would suffice, or if you want to be a bit more posh, you could say that the vertical scale or the y-axis is not linear. Then, if you can't spot anything else, start looking at the graph itself. Are the heights all correct? Well, yes, they are. What has gone wrong? That coordinate. So I would simply say, as I have done on my other PDF file on my worked answers, I've put that the final coordinate should have been plotted at 45.5. So they've not used the midpoint, they've used the end point or the upper class boundary. Number 27. Very easy to overcomplicate a question like this by waffling using speed, distance, time a bit too much. Let's take part 1 of her race. Now don't forget that 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. So if you run at 6 miles per hour, in a quarter of an hour, you'd run a quarter of that distance. So she's running 1.5 miles in 15 minutes. It's a quarter of the distance in a quarter of the time. Phase 2, she's now running at 9 miles per hour. Now 40 minutes, a bit more awkward. 20 minutes is a third of an hour. So 40 minutes is 2/3 of an hour. So she's going to run 2/3 of that distance. 1/3 of 9 is 3. 2/3 of 9 is 6. So in those 40 minutes, she's going to run 6 miles. And it says it takes Amy 45 minutes to run the same. So total distance 7.5. So Amy has a time 45 minutes. Now, not a fan. Always be careful, people. This is where overcomplicated and making simple mistakes happens. Don't want to be typing 45 into your calculator. The answer's in hours. Work in hours. So time, either write it as a fraction or a decimal, 0.75 or 3/4. And to get your speed for Amy, speed equals distance divided by time. Nice answer of 10. On to the next one. Very, very unfriendly. I'm sure the most popular answer in most exams is to skip it. So, but let's go here, let's look at how we can go about it. Let's look at the rectangle as a whole. The rectangle has a height of 4x and a width of 3x plus 5. And that's how you work out area, length times width. Let's expand those brackets. Now that's what we're told A is. Let's call this something else. So let's look at the area of B. Now, you have got it on your formula sheet. The area of B, which is a trapezium, is the average. One parallel side is 3x, another parallel side is 2x. Their total is 5x. And that is multiplied by the height, which is the distance between them. That, whoops-a-daisy, that is 10x squared. So, to get A is simply the rectangle minus B. Or in other words, 12x squared plus 20x. Take away the 10x squared. And when you simplify your x squared terms, it spits out exactly what you were asked to show. On to question 29. So a lot of converting here, but it doesn't matter which order you do them in. Let's do the easy one first. To go from meters to kilometers, you're not going to be able to do as many. So that's where you make sure it's a divide. But then when you go from seconds to hours, it means you, in a longer time, you can do a lot more, as in cover a lot more distance. So that's why that is a multiply. So times 60 takes you to minutes, times 60 again takes you to hours. So it doesn't matter which order you do them in, as long as you get to 108. Finally, reverse percentages. If something is decreased by 15%, your multiplier was 0.85. But because you know the final amount, not the original amount, you need to work backwards. So take your 13,600 and divide by the multiplier. Gives you a nice looking answer of £16,000. And there we go. Hope that helped. See you on the next one.